because it's a little bit easier to say. And we are just honored to be able to be here, honored that they put in a small slot in their window for us to come to be here to share. It's just an honor and a privilege, and we're excited to be here to share with you guys what God has called our family to do. Now, a little bit about us is I'm a missionary's kid. I'm also a pastor's kid. In fact, a church that my parents pastored up in Holbrook, Arizona, Ray and Lynetta, were actually were my youth leaders, my youth pastors, way back in the early 90s. So they've even had an influence on my life. So it's exciting to see them here and ministering to your guys' youth and continuing to make an impact. So been raised in church, loved Jesus. My parents were missionaries for 2 years to the Netherlands. I've been on a lot of short-term trips. I gave a year to Kyrgyzstan. Love missions. Love being able to have the opportunity to travel and the adventure involved, and being able to share the love of Jesus wherever God's called us. Joe has been a missionary's kid when he was younger, so he also has a love. And God planted it early on in our lives for what He had in store for us. And life was going great. We were doing good, and then God started transitioning our lives, and we're like, okay, God, what's next? And we had thought about missions, but the timing just wasn't quite right. And so we got involved in a church, and life was going great. And, we're like, okay, this is what God had for us. He orchestrates and He leads and guides each step. But the cool thing was He positioned us in a church that 2 years ago, a missionary came and spoke at our church and was talking about Estonia. And he was talking about Estonia being the least religious country in Europe, and me being the person that I am that questions what missionaries say, was on my phone and Googling, is it really, is that the truth? Because how many of you guys know Google is the truth? It has all the answers. And so, he's talking about it. And then something else that he was talking about, as they were taking a team to Estonia to plant a church. And part of the vision is to open an operations center that would have a coffee shop. Now, to know a little bit more about me, is I love coffee. I've only had 1 cup so far today, and I definitely am feeling that I need at least 1 or 4 more. And I've worked at a coffee shop. I've worked at several coffee shops. I was a manager at a coffee shop at a church even. Love coffee. I am holding coffee. If you didn't notice on the way in, we're selling coffee that helps us go to Estonia, and we're going to throw out some coffee. Woohoo! So heads up, I apologize. I think it's I can't throw, so I apologize. You have to run for it. A few samples there for you guys. So as he was talking about coffee, this coffee shop is part of their vision, I was sitting next to Joe and I nudged him and I'm like, hey, we should go with them. And it resonated with Joe enough to start conversations in prayer. And over a course of several months, it led to them extending an invitation for us to go to Estonia with them to help plant a church, to help reach the lost in Estonia. Now, how many of you guys have even heard of know where Estonia is, or have heard of Estonia? Not many people. Estonia is below Finland, next to Russia. It's very cold there. We will take all the prayer we can get that we will stay warm and that we won't freeze while we're over there. But we have a video here that we want to show you guys that just really introduces Estonia and the need of why Estonia. Why are we going there? So.
This soft existence, this soft existence, this soft existence, falling everywhere. It feels so safe here. Sprinkle words, no one can hurt us. I sit and watch the birds, sun slowly creeping up to the dawn. cloud. Wonder who made us? Have we made them proud? The trees are moving, wind picks up steam. It's all so soothing, as if I'm in a dream. Out there in confusion, chaos and illusion, I can't see the point, never could. I run away, shut out the pain, pretend it's all gonna be okay, maybe someday. Days run like water, right down the drain. Sun's getting lower, gonna watch it slide away.
Good morning. My name is Joe. As my wife mentioned, I thank you for just allowing us a few minutes to share with you guys. And when we were called to go to Estonia and we started this conversation, I was battling a little bit with myself and a little bit with the Lord. Actually, a lot of strongly worded conversations with the Lord at some point. And I said, God, this is Northern Europe, Eurasia technically. It's fairly affluent. And every thought process of how missions looks goes through your head. We have this very idealized version of what missions looks like. And I went to the Lord and go, God, you could send me to China and smuggle in Bibles and start an orphanage, or I could go to India. I could go to Africa and drill a well. That's the real mission thing to do, right, God? I mean, seriously, people can get behind that. I can get behind that. And I was like, Lord, why? Why there? And something that was said at the World Mission Summit a couple years ago really, to put it bluntly, it was a 2x4 across the face. And it was one of those moments, and it was said was, we shouldn't wait for someone to need a drink of water to spread the love of Jesus into their hearts. And that really was it for me. And I said, all right, Lord, I understand, this Jonah moment I had was done and over with. Thankfully, it did not involve a large fish. But that was it for me. To give you a little bit of a history about Estonia, and Estonia is a former Soviet state that came out of it, that broke away from the Union after Perestroika went through. And Estonia actually has been under oppression for the last 970 years, roughly, give or take. Christianity was brought to the Estonians by the Danish, eventually the Germans, then the Tsarist Russians, then the Nazis, then the Soviets came in and said, a new idea for them. And they said, God doesn't exist. And that's what the Estonians kind of grasped onto. Because after all, this Jesus guy showed up and, they're under their thumb, why would we care? Now, how many know, we all know the truth of this. Jesus isn't a form of oppression, he's freedom. He's real freedom. He's the freedom that gets us to wake up every day to face it. The freedom that gives us the joy. It's not the free Wi-Fi, even though it's kind of cool that my phone will hook up to Wi-Fi in the city. Anyway, I digress. But that's real freedom. It's not stuff. It isn't about the self-identity. This is what the Estonians are dealing with. They're dealing with that sense of identity. But how many know that God is our identity? He gives us who we are.
Right.
And that's what we're about. That's what God has called us to do. To spread the love of God into a people who don't know it. Who their position of love is what they can bring for themselves. But Jesus brings the true form. Jesus is the hand of God extended. God wanted to save you and I a lot longer than we even thought of doing. When Jesus was lifted up from this earth, he told his disciples to go out into all the world. That's the final command, and that's what we're doing. We want to be a part of this movement. We are going to be a part of a church planting team, as my wife said. But we want to not just plant one church. We want to plant many. And we want to train, and not just in a church. We want to plant an Estonian church. Because that's what we're about, what we want to do. We want to train Estonian leaders to become church planters themselves, who are so ingrained in the concept of we need to keep planting churches, keep reaching the lost, reaching our country, reaching our region, and becoming missionaries ourselves. And that's what it's about. That's our burning passion, is to not just reach the Estonian people, but to champion the cause of the mission itself. When God told Abraham all those years ago, when he brought him out under the stars and said, count the stars, that will be your descendants, he meant it. But not just in physical children, but he said that your descendants will be a blessing to all nations. God had you and I and the Estonians in mind long before we even existed. And that's why we want to go. Because he had us in mind. And it took someone to be faithful to bring that cause, to spread his love to them. Now, I just thank you so much, Pastor, for just letting us come here. I know that you I literally watched him flip through his calendar like 6 times, trying to figure out a way to get us in here. So we thank you so much for the time.